This is Seth.
And this is Colby.
And we're Merci, and we're hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Congratulations with the new single, the new signing as well. And I'm relatively new to you guys. Like, this last single really introduced me to the band and really got me hooked on the band. So before we really jump in and talk about that aspect or the creative process of your music, I'm curious about this signing with Rise Records, just because, you know, with my old channel, Punk Videos Rock, I worked heavily with Rise Records back in the day, which was fully metal, fully hardcore, fully like harder music. And I love that they're transitioning to more diverse artists and bands. For you as an artist, what was it about Rise that made you guys want to say yes to the signing?
I mean, honestly, they just offered us like an amazing deal. You know, they just gave us, they heard the demos and they were like, we want to do this. And they gave us an incredible offer. And we were like, damn, like, why not? You know, I mean, we were thinking about where we were at in our career, and we had really gotten to this point where if we really wanted to take that next step, signing to a label was really the only way for us to do it. And so our managers had a really great relationship with Sean at Rise, and so it just like made sense. I mean, the pieces were all sort of there. Like, we had the relationships, they had the means, and they loved our music, so we were just like, let's do it.
As far as the artist development goes with the band, I mean, you guys have gone through a lot together, and you know, this is like a new era, I guess you would say, of the band itself. Like, so talk to me about that. That like evolution, that artist evolution for you guys from when you guys were originally doing, you know, these like smaller gigs, Warped Tour gigs before, to like what you guys are doing now and the new releases.
It's really for somebody who's coming in from an outside perspective, it seems like this massive jump, but for us, it seems like a pretty natural continuation of what we were doing before. Our last independent EP that we released, I feel, is it points pretty clearly to where we are now musically, and the sort of different sonic motifs that we've decided to incorporate into our sound. But, you know, we spent a long time, we played a lot of shows. We were a band under a different name for 7 years probably before we became Merci. Same sort of group of guys, but the ethos has always sort of been the same, to just continue to evolve and to continue to change and challenge ourselves, and not sort of, once we feel like we're getting comfortable with something, or that we've really nailed a quote formula, then it's time for us to just rip it apart and just try something new. And us signing to Rise came on the heels of our last sort of cycle of completely tearing our sound apart and just trying new stuff for fun.
How did you guys tear yourselves apart? You know, what is it about this sound that, you know, this is what you want to pursue? Did you feel that like the creative process changed in any way because it was something a little bit different from before?
I think that this time around, it was the production that goes into the songs was much more of a challenge to wrap our heads around, because we wanted to be able to create these songs that had the same kind of energy and intensity and fullness that a typical rock sort of production or arrangement would, without falling into the typical sort of things that a rock band would be expected to do. Like, when the chorus hits, you hit the crash cymbal throughout the whole chorus, and sort of just like taking away specific pieces and trying to see how we could make fullness happen in the mixes and the arrangements of our songs without sort of just executing the same thing that we had been doing before. So that was a challenge. The other big challenge was just trying to write more direct and honest songs, as opposed to, and still sort of like keeping a little bit of like the fun sort of use of metaphor that we have in our lyrics and stuff, but just trying to get a little bit more direct or a little bit more succinct, if that makes any sense.
You've had experiences of performing on Warped Tour for 2 years, two different years. And I feel like a lot of artists learn a lot from that experience, whether it's one show that you play or you're actually on the whole tour. And it doesn't matter which stage you actually play. It's just the experience of like being a performer on Warped Tour already like teaches you how to become a performer, or teaches you how to become a professional touring artist real quick. So how did you feel like that experience that you guys had on Warped Tour in 2017 and 2018 like impacted both the band and, you know, the way that you guys consider that live show and that tour life and just the aspect of being in a band?
Well, it was a heavy helping of humility giving. You know, like we definitely knocked us down. We were like, okay, this is really hard. We did it the gnarly way. We lived in the van and did all that, and for 2 months, and um, it was just a different lifestyle. It was you become this you. I feel like a different part of your physiology activates almost, and you're just like in the sun all the time, and you're sweating, and you're losing weight, and you're eating crap, and you're just existing, and then you're playing shows once a day. You're playing like a 20-minute set or whatever, and so to be able to sort of just exist on a purely physical level while simultaneously trying to bring it to whatever audience we were able to attract that specific day really, you know, tested our abilities as performers to kind of like try to activate people and like give people a reason to give a shit, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like a difficult task, and it can be pretty daunting. But and those first couple shows when we first got on the tour, they were not great. You know, it took us a little bit to get into a groove and be like, okay, we're going to promote the show from this hour to this hour before our set time, and then we're going to hang out and we're going to, you know, meet people. And it just taught us a lot about the the merits of playing live shows and shaking hands and meeting people and sort of like grassroots fan base development as opposed to purely online, which is what we were sort of trying to do before.
How did you bring that grassroots way of promoting stuff into this new online way? Because, you know, social media is such a heavy part in promoting music today. So how did that help you kind of get smarter with the promo aspect of the band?
I mean, it's been difficult. I think the biggest thing that we're just trying to do is make sure that we are always presenting the most honest version of ourselves. And that was a big conversation that we had as a band going into signing and becoming a signed band, was we have to make sure that we don't change ourselves into something that we expect people want, that we really, you know, stick to our guns and just be us. Because if we're not being ourselves all the time, then it's not going to be sustainable. Like if you have to go around and just pretend to be this, dress in clothes that you don't normally wear and say things that you wouldn't normally say, it's not a life that you can live for very long, you know? So I think that was a big thing that I think that we want to impart and to continue to impart into our sort of online persona, I guess, or presence.
You guys announced the signing, and the debut single for that was "Foolish Me." So this is pretty much a fresh new introduction of the band, of you guys, of your music. What was it about "Foolish Me" that you guys felt was like the perfect introduction of Merci?
Well, we gave the label some options. We basically we put together the most done songs that we had at the time, and we said, we're proud of all of these. You decide. Because we when we write songs, we're just trying to write the best thing we possibly can. So in our mind, any one of them could have been the first introduction to the band. I think we wanted to leave it to the label for them to, you know, just because it's their job, it's their expertise, it's their wheelhouse to figure out how to, you know, launch an artist and put them out there. So we wanted to sort of put a little bit of trust in their hands and see how they wanted to lead off with it. And when they picked "Foolish Me," I was personally very stoked because that song is it means a lot to me, and I think it's a really beautiful song. So it was all very serendipitous. They picked the song that we wanted. So
one thing that really like resonated with me instantly was your vocals, Seth. Like it's something fresh. Your sound is something fresh, something I can't say that I've heard somewhere else. So in that creative process of that rebrand, as we talked about earlier, did you rediscover your voice during this process, and how did that play a role in this new music today?
well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot for you to say. Yes, I feel I put in a lot of hours between the time of when we signed and when that song came out, or when we tracked it, into just practicing really, really, really hard. And I felt like I sort of made a couple personal progress, like milestones, as just as a singer that I wanted to make before we track our first label release. And I think that the vocal deliveries on this new record and this sort of new version of me singing is the most true to myself and just who I am. It's not really like me putting on a character or sort of some bizarre affect to try to make my vocal cut through the mix in a certain way, because the song, like I said, the songs are sort of more open now and they can let more relaxed and more lush vocal deliveries and arrangements sort of live. I definitely feel that I sort of changed my perspective on my own sort of personal vocal performance to cater more to that, for sure.
With this new material, do you guys feel like you guys are letting the music speak for itself instead of you saying, I want to create this kind of music, this kind of genre?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing because a lot of people don't really understand what genre to place us under. So, I mean, I say it's a very good in a weird in a good way. How people can't really place their finger on the genre in the music.
I think each song is a sort of world in and of itself. And each song is sort of a different opportunity for us to try different things and to make specific aesthetic decisions that serve whatever sentiment is being expressed in the lyric. And so I think that's sort of the guiding principle that we let take us down the path. We never go, it's very rare that we go into something saying, we're going to write a song that sounds like this, that's about this. We just let it happen. Like the idea sort of has to come first, and I don't know where it comes from in the universe, but it just shows up. And then once it's there, if it's really strong, then you just follow it, you know?
As we talk about that, let's jump into Haunt Me, and like that creative process of that. How different was that from Foolish Me? And I understand that this song kind of kickstarted with your voicemail, with a voice memo that you had, right, Colby?
Yeah, Haunt Me. While we were touring, I think we were on the road. What tour was that? I don't know. I have a specific memory of chilling in a green room with Seth and the guys, and we're just getting ready to play. I was like, "Hey, check out this little thing."
We were in Georgia. We were in. It was like a solo East Coast tour thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it came up months later. I was like, "Hey, remember this thing?" And we just started working on it.
Yeah, he sent me, it was an a cappella, and it was basically the chorus as it currently is. It was like pretty much the final melody, but the thing that really grabbed me was the Haunt Me lyric. And so he showed it to me once and I was like, that's really cool. And then I asked him to send it to me and I lived with it for a little bit. And then I just started to write verses for the lyrics and melodies for the verses that were sort of a response to the chorus a little bit. And then trying to create, I had that like guitar lick, and then I put just a simple drum loop under it. And then it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out how to get what I was creating in response to his version of the chorus to fit with his version of the chorus. But I think I like dropped your voice memo into Logic, and then I just slid it over by like a beat or two, and then had it come in before the downbeat. And then I was like, oh, then the clouds parted, and I was like, the song is done. But yeah, it's just those funny little accidents that happen sometimes where you know that two things can work together, but you just have to like tweak one little parameter just to make it happen.
Are you both like the main songwriters for the band? And what's that collaboration like between you guys every time you guys are creating music, especially with this upcoming debut album?
Yeah, I'd say most of the songs, at least the initial idea starts with either Colby or myself or us bouncing ideas off of one another. And then from there, it's pretty collaborative as far as I'll take like the beginnings of an idea and flesh out an instrumental demo around it and sort of figure out the general world that it's going to live in. And then the rest of the guys in the band come in and take the ideas of parts that I have and really put their stamp on it. But yeah, it's pretty much how we've always done it. You know, I mean, when we met like in 2008, and when we started making music together, it was me with the acoustic guitar and us just singing melodies until something sounded good. And we didn't have iPhones to record it in, but eventually we would take voice memos, and then we really haven't changed like the fundamental mechanics of songwriting for the entirety that the total amount of time that we've known each other. I don't think
the fact that the two of you have known each other for some time and have gone through so much together, how do you feel that you individually impacted the other in becoming like a better songwriter, better artist, better performer?
This guy like can write melodies that I would never be able to hear. And so whenever I'm working on stuff by myself, I have the Colby test, and I'm like, if I write a melody, I'm like, would he be stoked on this? Like, is this cool enough? So that's like, I mean, like, I don't know. He like I've told you this. You got a great ear, man.
Thanks, John.
But yeah.
Since I've known Seth, he's always been like the most musical, talented kid I've ever known. So immediately when we met all those years ago in gym class, I knew like, something clicked and I needed to stick around and follow it and see where it went.
Now, as we talk about this debut album that's currently in the works, it's your first major, first under a label. But talk to me about like that creative process with this album, and how different has that process been to the two singles that you guys have released so far?
I mean, well, the two singles are both were born out of one long recording session that has been prolonged even further because we were like trucking along, making the record, and then hit, and we had to drop everything, and we took like a 3-month break. So I think the record would be coming out 3 months earlier than it is now. Happened, but there really isn't any sort of major delineation between the creative process that went into these first two singles and the creative process that went into all the other songs on the record. We only did one co-write. One song was a co-write that we did out in LA. The rest of them was just us as a band working with our producers, Ben Green and Sean Robinson, and just working in a really organic and collaborative way, and just trying to make subtle but specific decisions to make sure that each song could potentially be a single, that each song has that sort of like, oh, that's sick, like that could totally be like somebody somewhere that could be their favorite song. That's sort of been the goal, and we apply that to everything that we do across the board.
Colby, this time around, since Seth, as he mentioned earlier, he kind of rediscovered his vocals, with you also doing vocals with the band, like, did you find yourself doing the same thing for this record?
Yeah. So it's a weird thing because Seth and I sound similar to each other already when we sing. It's just, I can't really mention the next single. On a couple of these songs, I've kind of found myself having to shape my style to sound a little more better with his vocals, because I don't know, I cut through. I just sound like a poppy little bitch. I don't know. So I've been working on that. But yeah, that's where we're at.
How has that changed the way that you guys write the lyrics to the music?
Oh man, well, lyrics are all this guy right here. Not all.
But I do try to use nice big vowels, so you can get a lot of O and ah out of your choruses, so they're easier to sing. You know what I mean? As opposed to really like a shit ton of consonants. E's are difficult. So, I mean, we don't really think about it too much. We sort of a lot of the times the lyrics, like when we start, like a voice memo for an idea for a song, we'll be babbling words, like just gibberish. And usually somewhere in the gibberish, there will be like a phrase or something that just felt natural when we were working on it. And so we'll just grab that and roll with it and try to anchor the whole song around it.
So lastly, to wrap this up, like with Haunt Me, what do you guys feel was the biggest challenge in either the creative process of the song or the production and finalizing the song?
The bridge, for sure. The bridge for the when he sent me the voice memo, and that totally inspired me, and I created this whole instrumental world for the rest of the song to live in. And then I wrote the verses happened immediately, and the lyrics were really inspired. But that bridge, I had the melody, the honestly I'm shocked I'm still alive, but there was no instrumental scene change or anything. It was just this a cappella moment. And the song lived like that for a long time. It was just the chorus is happening and then the bridge happens and it's just me singing this vocal line, and there's nothing of intrigue happening. And that was really stressing me out because I was like, we cannot cut corners here. This has got to be sick. And we spent a whole day in the studio. I just came in one day and I said to our producers, I was like, it's got to feel like a seance. Like it's got to feel like a weird, creepy drum circle happening in the woods with all these witches. Like at the end of The Witch, that movie, when she goes out into the woods and they're all flying up into the sky and they're naked and it's just like creepy as hell. Like that's what the bridge had to feel like. And so we just spent this whole day of, we were just putting down all these synths and these drums, and we brought in this like tom, and which I tracked like a gajillion vocal harmonies, and it was pretty gnarly. But I'm really proud of that moment on the song because it came together like last second.
Yeah, I mean this song is a masterpiece. So like it was definitely worth everything that you guys went through.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, guys, for taking the time for this interview, and definitely looking forward to this upcoming debut album because these 2 songs are not enough for me. I definitely need more, and I see that on the comments, a lot of the fans are asking for more too. So definitely looking forward to that, and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. It was great talking to you.
I appreciate it.
That means a lot. Thank you.